Okay, so lesson 2, all about angles, things that you see all the time as you move around. Maybe sometimes you notice them, maybe sometimes you don't. I don't know how often I'm thinking angles when I look at a slice of pepperoni pizza, but they should add a little ricotta to this, don't you think? Maybe I'm not thinking about angles. A yield sign definitely gets my attention, as does the prototypical octagonal stop sign. Dining tables. Angles are all around us. And knowing the different types and classifying them and how they work together is what today's lesson is all about. What we're going to cover today, we're going to start off with review questions. I always start off with review questions, every single lesson. One of the things I also like to say very much, and I know a number of you are thinking of becoming teachers, it doesn't matter how fast you learn. It just matters that you learn. And when you teach, there are some kids in your class who are going to be naturally gifted, maybe just in your subject. Maybe they're not as gifted in other subjects. Maybe they're gifted in all of them. Whatever the case, they might be able to see something once or twice and get it down pat. Other students might need to see it 4 or 5 times before they get it down pat, which is why you'll see certain concepts repeated on the homeworks here until I'm comfortable that everybody's learned it. And you'll also see it repeated on the review questions, okay? Performance is a function of preparation. We mentioned that one. And also, the more you make the game like practice, and the more you make practice like the game, the better your team is going to perform. Also, the better your students are going to perform. So it's incumbent upon me as a teacher to present material not just multiple times over, but from different perspectives each time, so that every single kid can understand it, every student can understand it. Really effective teaching, I believe, is a lot like the old radios. Now, the new ones, they're all digital, and you just type the number in and bam, it pops up. But in the old days, you used to have a dial that you would turn, and you would be able to pick the station up across a small interval of space. A really good teacher manages to present the material across as broad an interval as possible, so that different students who learn different ways can understand it. So if you're looking at a question and you say, oh man, why is he giving me this question? I understood this 4 times ago. Well, maybe other kids don't. And it's important that I make sure everybody, doesn't matter how fast you learn, just matters that you learn. It's real important that I meet everybody's needs with how they go about doing it. So review questions are one of the ways I do that. Angle types we're going to talk about today. And angle relationships, particularly complementary, supplementary, adjacent, and vertical, learning all of that terminology and how to look at diagrams and recognize those situations, and also have numerical and algebraic applications. So one of the terminologies we spoke about the other day was on a Cartesian plane. Remember, a plane is like a flat surface. A Cartesian plane is a coordinate plane. And axioms and postulates. And this is an example of when we can use either the addition or the subtraction postulate. And as usual, this is the given information that AB is 9, BC is 3, find AC. And we're going to do that technique, or that normal strategy or practice we always do, called stop and start. And you're going to stop your video, do the problem, turn it back on again. I'm going to start talking in about 3 seconds after I shut up, just so that you have time to do your problem and it doesn't take forever to put all of these videos up. Go ahead. Okay, so if AB is 9 and BC is 3, now notice, compared to the whole line length, this is a small piece and a small piece, and they're asking me about AC, which is the big piece. So when I go small and small to get big, that's the addition situation. So I'm going to add the 9 and 3 to get 12. Okay, next up, classifying triangles according to its angles and its length. Let's do stop and start, and then I will start up with the answers. Okay, first one, since we're doing it by its angles, this is an acute little triangle, all right? It's acute because you got to give it an Italian accent. It's acute little triangle. That's because all 3 angles are less than 90 degrees. Letter B is a right triangle because I have a 90-degree angle tucked right here in the corner, down on the lower left. And letter C is going to be an obtuse triangle because one angle, the one on the upper right, is greater than 90 degrees. Okay, now we're going to classify by side lengths. The first one is scalene because all the sides are different lengths. The next one, well, they look pretty much all the same size. That's equilateral. The last one, two of the sides look the same, so we'll call that isosceles. All right, next one up in this review section of our work is to draw a triangle with more than one name, and there's a word bank on the right-hand side. Now, keep in mind, there's lots of answers to this, and in your doing it, you might not come up with the same answer I did, but I'll show you one of them. Okay, so this is the triangle that I drew, and the two words that I think are best associated with this are acute and scalene. Okay, you may have drawn an equilateral triangle and said, hey, that's also an acute triangle. You may have drawn an isosceles triangle, and that could have been obtuse, it could have been right, it could have been acute, it could have been lots of different things. Okay, so next up will be to start introducing angles and so on and so forth. That we'll cover in the next video.